Today we can discuss on physiology of balance or physiology of equilibrium. How we balance. Okay, that is physiology of equilibrium. Right? One thing is very essential for studying the physiology of equilibrium. And what is that? It is the knowledge of anatomy of inner ear. So, if any one of you is in doubt of anatomy of inner ear, please temporarily stop seeing this video. Go back to my previous classes on anatomy of inner ear, study that and then come and see this class, right? Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you to understand the physiology. Okay, so study the anatomy of inner ear and then come back, right? Okay, so how we balance, that is a question. So what happened, we have a vestibular system, and this vestibular system will collect information regarding the position and movement of the head. Okay, and the vestibular system along with the visual as well as the proprioceptive signals. What is that proprioception? Proprioception is the movement of small joints along with the superficial sensation, right? So this vestibular system along with the visual as well as the proprioceptive signals are sent to the brain. In the brain there are cortex, cerebellum, reticular formation and the extrapyramidal system, and this uses the data from all these, from the vestibule, the proprioceptive area and from the visual field. All the data are integrated and stored, and uses this information to coordinate the eye movement and the head movement and also the body movement during movement, and give a conscious, and this will give a conscious perception of orientation and also motion. So that is very easy. I told the physiology of equilibrium in one sentence. I know you understand nothing. I will explain in detail. Okay. So this is a basic concept. Not only the vestibular system but also our vision as well as the small joint and also proprioception and also the superficial sensations. These are essential for getting a conscious perception of orientation as well as motion. Okay. And if there is a fault in any of these areas, the patient will complain of multiple symptoms. It can be either a loss of balance, or the patient will tell us there is illusion of movement, I feel dizzy, I feel a disequilibrium. Sometimes the patient will tell us there is a sensation of swimming or there is a sensation of floating, and there is unexpected falls and also a high grade of anxiety. Some patient will tell, oh, ഭയങ്കര വയറ് പെരുപ്പം, മനസ്സിലായോ, എന്തോ ഒരു വലിയ അത്യാഹിതം സംഭവിക്കാൻ പോകുന്നു എന്ന് പറയാം. ചിലപ്പം തലയിൽ ഒരു പെരുപ്പം, ഞാനിങ്ങനെ പറന്ന് നടക്കുന്ന ഫീല് പറയാറുണ്ട്. അങ്ങനെ പല different symptoms the patient will tell. Okay, all these are coming under a terminology of vertigo. Okay, all these symptoms, a general term, that is vertigo. Okay, what is it, vertigo? It is an illusion of movement, or it can be defined as a sensation of instability. Is it an agreeable or it is a disagreeable? That sensation of instability is disagreeable, isn't it? So it can be defined as a disagreeable sensation of instability or disordered orientation in space. So all these comes under vertigo. It can be an illusion of movement, or it can be a disagreeable sensation of instability, or it can be a disordered orientation in space. Okay, So that is vertigo. And another terminology you have to know is oscillopsia. Okay, what is this oscillopsia? In this oscillopsia, the patient will not tell us, I have an illusion of movement. Rather, the patient will tell us, the visual world around me is moving. എനിക്ക് പ്രശ്നമില്ല, പക്ഷെ എനിക്ക് ചുറ്റുമുള്ള അന്തരീക്ഷം മൂവ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് പോലെ തോന്നുന്നു. That means there is horizontal or vertical oscillation of the visual world, right? And sometimes this feeling will be exacerbated by head movement, and that is oscillopsia, oscillation of the visual world around the patient, sometimes exacerbated by the head movement. Okay, and that is oscillopsia. So our main concern is the vestibular area. So what are the functions of this vestibular system and how it works out? Let us see. So what are the functions of the vestibular system? The vestibular system includes both vestibule as well as semicircular canals. Mainly there are two functions. That is, one is detection of our body motion. How? By detecting the head motion. As the head goes, also the body, right? So that is one thing. That is detection of the body motion, both linear as well as angular movement as detected by the head motion. And the second is detection of the head in space relative to gravity. That is tilt of head. The body is not moving, only the head is moving, right? So that is tilt. That is also detected by the vestibular system. So detection of body motion as detected by the head motion, and also the motion of the head in space relative to gravity. And these two detections will contribute to one, maintenance of fovea in the object of visual fixation. So there comes the vestibular ocular reflex. So maintenance of the fovea on the object of visual fixation, and then maintenance of balance. Okay, then activity of the autonomic nervous system, and also the level of mood and arousal. That is also the functional vestibular system. So by detecting the body motion in relation to the head motion, and also the detection of head in space in relation to gravity, and it will contribute to the maintenance of fovea on object of visual fixation. Second, maintenance of the balance. And third, activity of autonomous nervous system. That is why during vertigo the patient will complain of vomiting also, okay, or an undue anxiety will be there. And fourth is level of arousal and mood. These are all controlled by the vestibular system. Before going to the vestibular functions in detail, we can refresh about the sensory epithelium. So what is the primary sensory cell? What is the primary sensory cell? It's a hair cell, isn't it? So there are around, there are crista, and where this crista comes in the ambulated end of the semicircular canal, isn't it? And there are macula, cristae and maculae. Where this maculae comes, they are coming in the saccule and also utricle. Okay, so there are around a total of 23,000 hair cells. A total of how many semicircular canals are there? Yes, there are 3 semicircular canals. 3. So a total of 23, around 23,000 hair cells in the 3 crista, and 45 to 60,000 hair cells, a total, not in each maculae, but a total of spatial orientation of these hair cells along with the sensory epithelium is important. So we have already told that what is the orientation of the saccule and utricle. It is at right angles to one another. Okay, if you have any doubt, just go and see the anatomy of inner ear, right? So saccule and utricle, this maculae of the saccule is at a vertical orientation. Okay, so that is in a vertical orientation. Okay. That is vertically oriented, right? In the anterior wall of the saccule, this maculae is got a vertical orientation, and this macula of the saccule has got a vertical orientation. It is in the saccule, they are vertically oriented in the anterior wall. Okay, so this is the saccular macula of the saccule, and in the utricle, they are this maculae are oriented in the lateral wall in a horizontal axis. Okay. Okay, so this is in a macula of a utricle, right? So this in the saccule it is vertically oriented, and in the macula, in the utricle, it is horizontally oriented. Okay, and this is the this is in the right. In the saccule, it is vertically oriented, and in the utricle, it is horizontally oriented. One more thing is there, it is called the striola, right? Striola. So it comes, striola actually separates the macula into two parts, right? That is a linear structure which separates the macula into two portions. Okay, that is there in both saccule as well as in utricle. And what is the arrangement of the hair cells? These hair cells are type 1 and type 2 hair cells, type 1 cell and type 2 cell, and in both these there is one kinocilium and more of stereocilium. There will be one kinocilium and there will be stereocilium, one kinocilium. So the arrangement of kinocilium is important, and in the saccule this kinocilium are arranged away from the striola. Okay, so this kinocilium is arranged away from the striola. Okay, it is away. In the saccule, this kinocilium is arranged away from the striola. Striola is a central linear structure which separates the macula into two portions. And in the utricle, this kinocilium are arranged towards. Okay. Okay, it is towards the striola. What is the importance of this? That is, if the kinocilium are beaten away from the striola of the saccular maculae, they get depolarized. And in the utricle, the kinocilium moving towards the striola will get depolarization. That is the importance of that. So you have to know it is away from the striola in case of saccule, and kinocilium is towards the striola in case of. And regarding the semicircular canal, they are also got a peculiar anatomical orientation in space, and that also contribute to the correct vestibular function. This is a horizontal semicircular canal, and horizontal semicircular canal is around 30 degrees. To the horizontal axis of the cranium, and this vertical semicircular canal, both superior as well as the posterior, are also arranged in a direction that this right superior semicircular canal is always parallel to the opposite left posterior canal, and the left superior semicircular canal is almost parallel to the right posterior semicircular canal, and in the same side these three semicircular canals are at right angles to one another, right? So this horizontal semicircular canal is at 30 degrees to the horizontal axis of the cranium, and the ipsilateral superior is parallel to the contralateral posterior, and the vice versa. And on one side the three semicircular canal are at right angles to one another. Okay. So also their hair cells, right? So peculiarity of the macula of both saccule and utricle, and also peculiarities of the crista of the three semicircular canals. You got it? Okay. And you should also have an idea about the plane of motion of the head as well as the body. So there are some terminologies, and there are three planes of head motion. And what are they? We know all this, but there are some terminologies for that. One can be in the vertical axis and another can be in the horizontal axis. Horizontal axis is the shoulders, okay. So if it is in this plane, it is a horizontal axis, and this one is a vertical axis. So if I am moving horizontally like this in a vertical axis, this thing, what is that? That is yaw. Okay. So movement, it is yaw. Yaw moment, moving like this, yaw. Okay. And that is in the vertical axis. Vertical axis, this movement. Another one in the vertical axis is flexion and extension, that is pitch. Okay, this one, that is pitch. So in the vertical axis, this movement, horizontal motion in the vertical axis is yaw, and flexion and extension in the vertical axis is pitch. Okay, and another one is in the lateral head tilt, like this. Okay, that is in the horizontal axis. Lateral head tilt in the horizontal axis, and that is called the roll. Lateral head tilt. So these three movements is important to know the vestibular function. So one is in the vertical axis there are two movements. One is a yaw, another one is pitch, and in the horizontal axis it is a lateral movement, and that is called the roll. Okay, right. And another two terminologies are linear acceleration and angular acceleration. What is linear acceleration? That is, we are not changing our direction. We are going in a straight line. Can be forwards or sideways, whatever ways it is. We are going in a straight line, and there is change in velocity. Like we are running in a car, suddenly we are increasing the speed. That is linear acceleration. And this linear acceleration is not the increase in speed is not needed always. It can be a deceleration also, right? So in a linear acceleration, linear movement, we are moving in the same direction, only the velocity will increase or decrease. Example, we are moving in a car, the speed can increase or decrease. So that is linear acceleration. And second one is angular acceleration. So one is linear, another one is angular. And what is that? Like spinning. You have noticed there's ice skaters or the ball dancers spinning, or we are moving in a giant wheel, isn't it? So there is a rotation, spinning motion, and that is the angular acceleration, right? So in this linear can be again, that can be a horizontal or a vertical motion. So horizontal linear acceleration, like moving in a car, is best sensed by the utricular macula. Okay, horizontal linear acceleration and vertical linear acceleration. That is from head to toe. Like we are going in an elevator. We are sitting, moving in a lift. That's an elevator we are moving. That is becomes a vertical linear example of a vertical linear acceleration. And that is best sensed by the saccular macula. And these angular accelerations are best sensed by the semicircular canals. Similar to the unique arrangement of the maculae of saccular and utricle, the crista of the semicircular canals are also arranged in a unique way. This is the horizontal semicircular canal, and the ambula of this horizontal semicircular canal and this is the ambula, ambulated end, and the crista is situated within the ambula. This horizontal semicircular canal is in love with the utricle. It sits there always looking towards the utricle, and if there is a stimulation, there is utriculopetal, that is the kinocilium moves towards the utricle. So utriculopetal movement, or there will be ambulopetal movement. Okay, that is towards the ambula, ambulopetal. Right? So the horizontal semicircular canal, when excited, there is ambulopetal movement for depolarization. And this responds maximum to the yaw movement of the head. What is yaw movement? Yaw movement is in the horizontal, this is the horizontal axis, the movement in the horizontal axis. That is yaw movement, right? So that is best catched by the horizontal semicircular canal. And this posterior as well as the superior semicircular canal are furious on seeing the utricle. That is, so what happened? There will be ambulofugal movement. Okay. So of this, the ambula, they become very furious on seeing the utricle and go for an ambulofugal movement. This is the ambula, and this they will go in an ambulofugal movement. Okay, and this posterior as well as superior semicircular canal respond to both. What are the other movement? They are the pitch and the roll movement, and the yaw movement is by the horizontal semicircular canal. Okay, so these are the three types of head orientation of the head in angular motion. Okay, so the saccule mainly respond to the vertical linear acceleration and the utricle for the horizontal linear acceleration, and the horizontal semicircular canal respond to the yaw movement, and the posterior as well as the superior semicircular canal respond to pitch as well as the roll movement. Okay, of that also the posterior semicircular canal respond maximum to the pitch as well as the roll movement in yaw position. What is this yaw position? That is the jaw approximated to the shoulder in this position. If I do like this, that is my posterior semicircular canal, right? So the yaw position is the jaw in approximation to the shoulder, and if there is a pitch movement, which semicircular canal at maximum? My posterior semicircular canal. Okay, so the yaw movement, horizontal semicircular canal, the pitch as well as the roll by both superior as well as the posterior semicircular canal. All these observations regarding the semicircular canals was proposed by the Evals. Okay, Evals, and They are known as Evals Law. There are 3 laws, 1, 2 and 3. ഇപ്പോൾ പറഞ്ഞ കാര്യങ്ങൾ തന്നെ ഒരു ലോ ആക്കി ക്രോഡീകരിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നു. മനസ്സിലായോ? So all the things I have already explained were made into a law or observations by the Evald known as Evals Law. That also you have to know. The Evals Law 1 states that the head and the eye movement will take place always in the direction of the canal being stimulated and according to the flow of endolymph. So the head and eye movement will take place always in the direction of the semicircular canal being stimulated and according to the flow of the endolymph. That is observation number 1. And what is observation number 2? This. That is, in the horizontal canal, the greater excitation happens when there is ambulopetal movement of the endolymph rather than the ambulofugal. Okay. Because these two, that is horizontal semicircular canal and the utricle, are very much in close relationship. This ambulopetal, that they are lateral semicircular canal is sitting looking towards the utricle, and an ambulopetal flow causes much excitation than an ambulofugal flow. Right? It's very simple. Okay. So that's the second observation. And the third observation is this. That is for the superior as well as the posterior semicircular canal. Which flow causes more excitation? Ambulofugal. Away from the ambula. Okay. Away from the ambula. So ambulofugal flow of the endolymph causes more excitation than an ambulopetal. So all the 3 are the observations and named after Evals as Evals laws. So hope you got the Evals law. I'll repeat once more. Evals law 1 states that the movement of the head and the eye is determined by the stimulation of the concerned semicircular canal and also by the flow of endolymph. Number 2, in the horizontal semicircular canal, it is the ambulopetal flow causes a more excitation than an ambulofugal. Ambulopetal means towards the ambula, right? So as it sits looking towards the utricle, an ambulopetal flow causes more excitation than an ambulofugal flow. And in vertical canal, that is the superior as well as in the posterior semicircular canal, an ambulofugal flow causes more excitation than an ambulopetal flow. Okay, so that is Evals law. Okay, now the basic concepts are over. And what happens when there is a head movement? When there is movement of the cranium, there will be movement of the sensory epithelium, right? So along with the sensory epithelium, there will be movement of the endolymph, the cupula and the otolith organ, isn't it? So when the movement is parallel to the surface of the sensory epithelium, what happens? These are the hair cells. In the hair cell, there is one kinocilium and stereocilium. When the movement or the maximum force is parallel, when it is parallel to this is a basement membrane. When the maximum force is parallel to the basement membrane, what happens? There will be movement of the cilia. The stereocilia are moved towards the kinocilium. It will be deflected like this. Okay. And if the force is perpendicular to basement membrane, what will happen? There won't be any movement of the cilia. That will be nullified. So when the maximum force is parallel to the sensory epithelium, there will be a deflection of the stereocilia towards the kinocilium, isn't it? So what happened? There will be, it causes a depolarization. And when there is a depolarization, what will happen? The depolarization causes a decrease in the membrane resistance. So inside the over the hair cell, there are ionic channels. As we have already seen in a cochlea, it is bathed in the endolymph, which has got a positive potential. Endolymph, more of potassium ions, so there is a positive potential, and inside the hair cell there is negative potential. And when the ionic channels are opened, there is influx of potassium as well as calcium. More of potassium and calcium will flow into the hair cells, so that what happens? There will be neural excitation, and also there will be flow of neurotransmitters into the synapses. Okay. So there will be depolarization of the stereocilia, causes the hair cell to act as transducers, and they will convert the mechanical energy into ionic flow, and there will be a neural action potential. Okay. So basically the movement of the endolymph along with the cupula and the otolith organ or the otolith membrane will causes a force, and when the maximum force is parallel to the basement membrane, the stereocilia will move towards the kinocilium and causes a depolarization, and this causes opening of the ionic channels of the hair cell, and the potassium as well as the calcium ions will flow into the hair cell, and this causes a production of a neural excitation potential, and so the mechanical energy is transduced into an ionic flow, and also there is a neural action potential, right? And these neural action potentials are sensed by the afferent fibers, afferent nerve endings attached to this. Here there is a nerve endings, and this nerve endings will catch this action potential, and then what happens? Here there is a difference from that of the cochlear part. In auditory system, the nerve fiber once excited, it will go through a specific route into the temporal lobe, into the superior temporal gyrus. But here it will not work out. Why? Why? Because here the balance or orientation in space is a networking between the information from vestibule, the vision, proprioception and superficial sensation. So the fibers from the vestibule, if it is going directly to a particular part of the brain, it will not serve the purpose. So what happened? The fibers from the efferent fibers from both type 1 and type 2 hair cells will go through that is a primary vestibular neuron, will go to the Scarpa's ganglion. The primary vestibular neurons situated from all these parts will go to the Scarpa's ganglion, and Scarpa's ganglion is situated in the internal auditory canal, and this Scarpa's ganglion has got a superior portion and an inferior portion. So the primary vestibular neuron from the superior semicircular canal, lateral semicircular canal, utricle and a small portion of the saccule will go to the superior portion, and major portion of the saccule as well as the posterior semicircular canal will go to the inferior part. So it has got a superior portion and an inferior portion. So the superior, lateral, utricle and a small part of saccule. All these are very good friends. This ambulated end of superior, lateral and also the utricle is nearby. So all these fibers along with a small portion of saccule will go to the superior part of Scarpa's ganglion, and the rest of the saccular macula as well as the posterior semicircular canal will go to the inferior portion of the Scarpa's ganglion. And from there, these fibers will go to the vestibular nuclei, and this vestibular nuclei is situated in the floor of fourth ventricle. These are situated in the floor of fourth ventricle at the pondomedullary junction, right? Okay. So before going to the vestibular nuclei, some efferent fibers to the cochlea will leave that tract, and these fibers are called the bundle of Oort, O-O-R-T. This you have to. So from the Scarpa's ganglion, these fibers will go to the floor of fourth ventricle. Then there is situated the vestibular nuclei, and at the junction of pondomedullary junction. Now you have to remember the 7th and 8th. They are at nearby at the pondomedullary junction. At the floor of 4th ventricle lies the vestibular nucleus, and this vestibular nucleus has got a 4 divisions or 4 parts. It is the superior vestibular nucleus, lateral, medial and descending. It is not superior, lateral, medial and posterior. Don't think like that. Instead of posterior, that comes the descending fibers. Okay. So, from the Scarpa's ganglion, the fibers are going to the vestibular nuclei, which is situated in the floor of 4th ventricle, and it has got, this vestibular nucleus has got 4 divisions. The superior vestibular nucleus, each of the 4 divisions, thank God there is only 3 divisions are named, and the descending vestibular nucleus has no specific name. So if you can remember, you remember the names. If you not, just remember. If you can't remember the names, don't worry. You just remember the vestibular nucleus has got 4 parts. It is a superior, medial and lateral and descending. Okay. So the superior vestibular nucleus is Bechtro, lateral of Datus and medial of Schwalbe. Okay. And these fibers mainly from the crista of the semicircular canal and also from the cerebellum. Right? They are mainly synapsing to the superior vestibular nucleus. So, from the semicircular canals and from the cerebellum, it is to the superior. Think as S and S, superior semicircular canal. All the semicircular canal along with the cerebellum is going to superior part. And to the medial vestibular nucleus, the fibers are mainly from the crista, then utricular macula. Okay, that is from the utricular macula. Then cerebellum and also from the reticular formation. Okay, so crista, utricular macula, cerebellum and reticular formation again go to the medial vestibular nucleus. And the descending fibers, both macula of utricle and utricle and saccule. So from the vestibule, utricle and saccule, it is going to the descending part of descending vestibular nucleus, and to the lateral mainly comes the utricular macula, cerebellum and your spinal as well as the commissural fibers. Spinal and commissural. Okay. So this is about the afferent nerve supply. Afferent nerves from the Scarpa's ganglion, they are coming to the vestibular nucleus, which is situated in the floor of 4th ventricle, and the fibers, efferent fibers to the cochlea, that's going as bundle of Oort, and this vestibular nucleus is divided into 4 parts. To the superior comes the crista of the semicircular canals and also from the cerebellum, and into the medial part, crista of the semicircular canal along with the utricular macula, cerebellum and reticular formation again to the medial, and fibers from utricular macula, cerebellum, spinal and commissural fibers go to the lateral fibers, and the macula of the utricle and saccule going to the descending tract. So the saccule is solely going to the descending fibers, but the utricular macula has got contributions to all the others. Okay, the maculae of the saccule, it is going to only one part of nucleus, that is the descending vestibular nucleus. But the utricle has got contributions or afferent fibers from the utricle are going to all the 4 parts of the vestibular nucleus. And the semicircular canal crista are going to superior and medial only. And the cerebellum also going to all the other 3 except the descending part. Okay, that you have to remember. and these are the afferent fibers, and from here efferent fibers will go to various part. Let us in the physiology of hearing we have seen that the auditory nerve on excitation go through a specific path to the cerebral cortex. Which area of cerebral cortex? It is the temporal lobe, superior temporal gyrus and Brodmann area 41, isn't it? It is got a specific pathway. But in case of equilibrium or balance, it cannot go through a specific pathway because there is a large networking between the vision, proprioception, superficial sensation, cerebellum, cerebral cortex, reticular formation, everything, and also the position of the head, position of neck, body posture, the spinal cord, everything is highly interconnected. So it is from the afferent fibers from the Scarpa's ganglion, that is the primary afferent neurons, will go to the vestibular nucleus. And where it is situated? It is situated in the floor of fourth ventricle at the pontomedullary junction. And up to that it is ipsilateral. The primary vestibular neurons will not cross over. Okay, it will not cross to the opposite side. And from there, this efferent fibers from the vestibular nucleus will go to the opposite side, opposite vestibular nucleus, to the same 3, 4, 6 nucleus of cranial nerve 3, 4 and 6, and also to the opposite side, and they will go to the vestibulospinal tract, autonomic nervous system, cerebral cortex, thalamus, cerebellum and reticular formation. That is why when we get a giddiness, there will be an autonomic excitation. We feel like abdominal discomfort, feel like defecation, there will be nausea, vomiting, everything, anxiety, arousal, mood variation, everything will be there. So, in this, there are 3 reflexes. Primary vestibular reflexes are 3 in number, and they are vestibulo-ocular reflex, vestibulo-spinal reflex and vestibulo-colic reflex. There are 3 reflexes which are very important in balancing. So these are the primary vestibular reflexes. So the afferent fibers will go to the vestibular nuclei. From there, efferent will go to the opposite vestibular nucleus. They will cross over opposite 3, 4 and 6 cranial nerve nucleus as well as ipsilateral. Then the vestibulospinal, cerebral cortex, cerebellum, reticular formation, the extrapyramidal system, and also the autonomic nervous system. Now we can see what are the 3 basic vestibular reflexes. Okay. Regarding the vestibular-ocular reflex, actually vestibule contains this vestibule as well as the semicircular canal, isn't it? So there are 2 types of VOR. One is a semicircular canal ocular reflex. And another one is otolith ocular reflex. Okay, so vestibulo-ocular reflex is divided into semicircular canal ocular and otolith ocular. Of this, the most dominant one is a semicircular canal ocular reflex mechanism. Okay, one pushing and the opposite side pulling, push-pull mechanism. Right? And if the force from the push and pull are equal, we get a normal balance. If there is a increase or decrease on the opposite side, it will present as a vertigo, and patient will complain of so many symptoms as we have already discussed, right? So, under physiological conditions, the angular acceleration occurring on one side will cause a mirror image of actions happening on the opposite labyrinth. And if there is a excitation on one side, it will be counteracted by a inhibitory action on a functionally paired labyrinth on the opposite side. What are these functional pairing? That we already know of the right side horizontal canal, it is paired with the opposite horizontal canal, and the superior canal of one side is paired with the posterior canal of the opposite side, and the posterior canal is paired with the superior canal of the opposite. So lateral with lateral of the opposite side, and posterior paired with superior of the opposite side, and the superior of one side paired with the posterior of the opposite side. Okay, that much you know. So what happens when there is an utricular or ambulopetal flow on one side, there will be an ambulofugal flow on the opposite side. So one side it is excitatory, and on the functionally paired one it is inhibitory. Okay, that is also understood, isn't it? Right. When my head is turned towards the right side, what will be the flow of endolymph? Endolymph always flows in the opposite to the direction of movement of the head. So when the head is turned to right side, endolymph will flow towards the left side. Okay. So what happened? That there will be ambulopetal movement in the right horizontal semicircular canal, and there will be excitation. So there will be firing of the right ambulary nerve. And what happened on the left side? On the left horizontal semicircular canal, there will be an ambulofugal displacement. So there will be inhibitory effect on the left horizontal semicircular canal. Okay. So on eyeball muscle, what will happen? There will be excitation of the ipsilateral agonist muscle and inhibition of the antagonist muscle. Okay. So they are the agonist muscle, that is the right medial rectus and the left lateral rectus. They get excited, and the antagonist muscle, that is the left medial rectus and the right lateral rectus, get an inhibitory effect. So what happened? Eyeball will turn towards the left side. So that is the semicircular canal ocular reflex. Hope you understand. It's very simple. You have to get a concept of this. That is, when action on one labyrinth, there is a mirror image of actions on the opposite labyrinth. And once one side, when it is excited, the functionally paired semicircular canal on the opposite side get an inhibitory effect. Excitation means ambulopetal towards the ambula, and inhibition means ambulofugal, that is away from the ambula. So this lateral on both sides are paired, and the posterior on one side is paired with the superior of the opposite side. So regarding the eyeball movement, the agonist muscles get excited on the same side, and the antagonist muscle get excited on the opposite side. Here see, they are the here the posterior canal is excited. On the right side, what happened? Right superior oblique and left inferior rectus get excited, and the ipsilateral inferior oblique and the contralateral superior rectus get inhibition. Same thing happened in superior semicircular canals also. You just remember this. Excitation on one side, inhibition on the functionally paired one on the opposite side, excitation of the agonist muscle and inhibition of the antagonist muscle. So when the head is moved towards the right side, there will be deviation of the movement of the eyeball towards the left side. Okay. So what happened? There will be a slow component of nystagmus towards the left side when your head is turned towards the right side. Slow component will be towards the left side. Okay. So that is the semicircular canal ocular reflex. From this vestibulo-ocular reflex, there are two more reflexes. One is a vestibulospinal, and one is a vestibulocholic. Vestibulocholic reflexes. You know, along with the head movement, information about the body posture is also needed for proper maintenance of orientation in space and motion. So this vestibulospinal reflex is mainly The vestibular information influences the spinal anterior hornsel activity by means of three major efferent pathways. That is the lateral vestibulospinal tract, the medial vestibulospinal tract, and also the reticulospinal tract. So from the vestibular nucleus, the information will go through all these three, lateral, medial as well as the reticulospinal tract, and there is a excitation of the vestibulospinal reflex. And luckily there is no much information about the vestibulospinal as well as the vestibulocholic reflexes in man, right? So the mainly you have to study about the vestibulo-ocular reflex. Vestibulospinal reflex is for the posture of the muscle activity, activity of the spinal anterior hornsel by means of lateral, medial and reticulospinal tract. And this vestibulocholic reflex, what is that? It is actually a vestibular neck reflex. So the motion in relation to body posture and the movement of the head and neck is controlled by the vestibulocholic reflex. Okay, because of all these three, that is the vestibulo-ocular, vestibulospinal and vestibulocholic reflex, the body posture is maintained during motion. Okay, so in short, to summarize the vestibular physiology, we have a vestibule, we have a semicircular canal, and inside the vestibule there is utricular macula and saccular macula, and inside the ambulated end of the semicircular canal there is the crista. So the motion of the head causes motion of the endolymph, the basement membrane, the cupula as well as the otolith organs, and this causes movement of the stereocilia towards the kinocilium, causing a depolarization, and this depolarization causes increased neuronal activity within the afferent nerve endings, and the primary neuronal efferent will go to the Scarpa's ganglion, which is situated in the internal auditory canal, and from the Scarpa's ganglion, afferent will go to the vestibular nucleus, which is in the floor of fourth ventricle, and from there it is again vestibular nucleus. There are four parts which is specific for each of the sense organ region, and from there the efferent fibers will go to the cortex, the cerebellum, the reticular formation, the extrapyramidal system, autonomic system, the corticospinal tract, the motor nucleus of 3, 4 and 6 cranial nerves of the same side and also to the opposite side. And the primary efferent neurons will not cross the midline. And by all these mechanisms, by the vestibulo-ocular reflex, vestibulospinal reflex and the vestibulocholic reflex, the body gets information about linear as well as angular acceleration and movement of the head in relation to the gravity. Okay. So if you have any study this, and if you have got any doubt about the physiology of equilibrium, just ask me or put your queries in the comment box. Okay.